Hey everyone, so this is the glass that we're going to be working on today. It is a wine glass and we are doing a beach theme. And this is my first wine glass as well as beach theme. So what we're going to use is the platinum clear epoxy from the epoxy resin store, and we're only going to mix up 5 milliliters at this point. We're going to use the epoxy as our adhesive for our glitter and our alcohol inks that we're going to use. So first of all, we are going to wipe down our glass really well with 91% rubbing alcohol and make sure you have wiped the entire glass down really well. We're just going to go over it, make sure every inch is wiped down. And we are going to use the 5 milliliters of epoxy to put on this glass. Now, with working with glass, it is extremely hard to tell where you have the epoxy and where you don't. So if you're going to do a glass, I would suggest put just a very little bit of a alcohol ink or something to give just a little bit of tone to where you can see. But with me, I'm just using the feel. So anything that's got some resistance against my finger, I am making sure I go back over that area really well with the epoxy. And I've just used the alcohol to wipe off my glove so that we can continue on. Now I'm using a torch here just to heat up that epoxy a little bit so that it'll move some. There's not very much, so it won't move very much at all. And we are going to use, I believe this was easily sueded, and we're going to coat the bottom and the stem and the base of our cup with this easily suede glitter from the Glitter Chimp. And y'all have put a discount code for 10% off of your entire order with Glitter Chimp in the description. So we're just going to use this bag and put our glitter onto this cup, or this glass rather. And you'll see most of my glitters is in a bag like this. The reason why I have them in these bags is because this is a static-free bag. Use it for electronics, computer components and stuff like that. So a lot of the glitter doesn't stay attached to the side of the jar or something like that. So I use static-free bags. Now I'm just making sure I have a good coat around the bottom of this glass and down the stem. And we are going to put this back in our bag. And this is light aqua alcohol ink. It's US Art Supply. And I like these colors. And there's only going to be 3 colors of alcohol ink that we use. And 3 colors of glitter. So it's not very much that we're having to use. We're just going to drop this light aqua around the top. portion of this glass, and we don't have to have it in such a way that it covers the entire thing. We're actually going to do layers with this. So I'm torching this just a little bit to get that alcohol ink to move around on this epoxy. And then we are going to go in with Glitter Chimp Cool Waters Glitter. And we are going to coat the entire top portion of this cup, or this glass. And I do ombre just a little into the easily suede, but it's not very much at all. You just want to make sure you get a good coat of this glitter on the top portion. This top portion is our main focal point. Now once we get this good and coated, you can see how that a lot of that just fell off. That's because it didn't have any adhesive on it. So once we get that good and coated, I'm actually going in with a little bit of the epoxy that was left over just to coat this, give a very thin layer of epoxy to this top portion. And we're actually going to use that for the next process. So we're going to heat it with our heat torch, and that'll let that epoxy move just a little bit. And we're going to go in with our alcohol ink, and here again we're just using that light aqua, and we're going to put little drops around this top portion. Because we want to bring out the color of the water again in this top portion. So we're going to have some depth during this next process, if you will. Now you'll see me stop and let the alcohol inks move a little before we go on with our next step. Now this is just a white alcohol ink. We're going to drop a few drops of this down mostly around where the blue and the brown come together, because we're going to start our waves, and we're actually going to have 2 layers of this, so we'll be coming back and doing another section of this as well. And this is, to me, this is what's going to add some of that depth to the glass. So here we are, just heating it up, heating the epoxy and the alcohol ink with this heat gun, kind of let it move a little bit. And then we're going to take our finger and we are going to use our finger and blend this white alcohol ink out into the blue. And the reason why we're using our finger is because there's such a small amount of that epoxy on the top that it does not allow it to really move. And this allows us to control where we want our alcohol ink a little better than if we had 10 or 12 or 15 milliliters of epoxy for this to roll around on. So we're just going to go back and forth with the alcohol ink and our finger and blending this out and getting some depth throughout the top portion of this cup. And each time you use alcohol ink, that wakes up the layer that is drying. So you can see here we've blended out our alcohol ink some. And we are about to go into our next alcohol ink color, which is going to be Brewery's Ocean Green, and we're only going to put this up at the very top. And the reason why I chose this is because, if you're at the beach or any water, the more shallow the water is, the lighter the color. So that's why we go in with the ocean green up at the very top, because you're further away from the beach. So the color is going to be more concentrated. So we're just putting a few drops up around the rim of this cup. And we will be blending this into the blue some. You can see there's a little bit of that darker hue up around the rim. And we're just going to use this blue and blend it into the green and the green towards the blue. You can overwork this, so you want to be careful. To me, this actually looks, in a way, it looks like a cloud scene. So whenever I do my cloud cups, I'll be doing this method as well. Now we're still working with just that 5 milliliters of epoxy that's the base of this cup. So now that we have this first layer down, we're going to add just a little bit of the cool water glitter again. And we're going to come high up so that we don't get it oversaturated, because we just want little glimpses of this coming through. Now I did put just a little bit of white on here for some texture, and kind of like the white caps of waves, and we let this fully cure. So now we're going back in with another platinum clear coat of the epoxy from the epoxy resin store, and this time I mixed up between 10 and 15 milliliters. And we're going to put a good coat on this glass at this point, because we're going to go back in with the alcohol inks. And we're going to be using the same colors, the light aqua, the white, and the Brewery's ocean green. And we're just going to start layering these colors again. And you will see that I actually use too much white. And this is tanned hide, also from the Glitter Chimp. And we're just going to put just a little bit. And you can see I'm using my fingers to drop this glitter on to the lower portion. And the reason why is because this is just a little bit different shade than that initial color of suede. And I did that because you have wet sand and dry sand, so that's what's going through my mind. That's why I did the two different colors. So now we're working on our water again, and this is again light aqua, and we're going to be using the white and the ocean green. Now we're not going to use our finger as much on any at all on this process, because we have enough of that epoxy so that the colors can move. We're just going to go back and forth with these colors and the white. You'll see I'll start putting down the white here in just a minute. And we're going to put it right at the water line area. And we're just going to put a few drops, and I'll let this spin in between to kind of let that start moving. And we'll use our torch and our heat gun to really get this to moving. The reason why I put a couple of drops towards the top is you never have waves or white caps, if you will, just at the shoreline. You can see white caps way out in the ocean. So that's the reason why the white up throughout, but mostly down around the base. So we're just going to put our blues in there and let this all start moving around some. You can see this starting to spread. And then we're going to get our heat gun and start to heat this up a little bit. And that'll allow the colors to move as well. And I'm just barely using this torch to get the colors and the epoxy to move around some. You can see as I hit these spots, it starts to move. We're going to use our heat gun, and the reason why we're using the heat gun is to add a little heat, but that'll also help us to get this white to move some. And I also have a straw that we'll be using a little later to help get the colors to move around a little. You can see some of this area where the epoxy is starting to warm up with this heat gun. It's starting to move that white. And this is where I start to realize that I've really used too much white. So we really have to go back and forth with our colors at this point. But in between each drop, you see I'm stopping. I'm letting that move on this glass to see where I may need more color at to break up a lot of that white. And that's the reason between the hesitation, to kind of see how things is moving and where things is going, to see where I need to correct the issue at. We're just going to heat this up and get this to move a little. The longer you let the epoxy sit, and as it cools off, the less movement you have. That's the reason why I'm letting this or heating this up some, is because I want to see some of the movement, see how things is going. And where I'm at, it's 100 degrees outside, so I have my air conditioner on. So this, and the air conditioner is kind of close to where I'm working at here, so that's helping cool off this epoxy at the same time. So I'm holding my turner down just a little bit to get some downward flow with this epoxy and the alcohol inks. And this is just the very last of that epoxy. I like to use every drop that I can. And not that that little bit really did anything, but so here we're going back in with the ocean green again to get that deep color of the deep waters. And we're just going to put this around the top again. And then we're going to go back in with our light aqua down around the base. Now, I only use these two colors because I wanted to kind of keep it simple-ish. Anyway, so you could go in with a little bit darker blue than this light aqua to get the color that you want. But I thought for the beach theme that even if I had to do more layers of this light aqua, I thought this was the best color for what I was going for. So you can play with your colors to get what you want. So now that we've put our colors down, we're going to heat that up just a little bit to see what our flow is like. And for me to work as much as what I did with this, heating the epoxy and letting it flow, this cup to me turned out really well. I know the warmer the epoxy, the more the flow. But like I said, I have my air conditioner on really close to this, and so it was cooling off pretty quick. Now here I've got a straw in my mouth, and we're going to use this straw to kind of help with these waves just a little bit. It's kind of hard to see the amount of movement using this straw, but you will be able to see some. And there's a oopsie. So I got two, actually this bottle of the white aqua leaks a little. So we're going to go back and we're going to fix that oopsie that's running down into the sand here in a few minutes. So we're going to go back in where this blue streak is, right there. And we are going to go in with our tanned hide, and we're going to use that glitter to cover that area up and add more of the beach area back into this. And you can see I'm kind of staying along this original line, but if you look at the beginning of the video, you see where some of this glitter actually moves up towards the top just a little bit, and it really gives that look of the water coming around the sand, like a sandbar area. So this is where our cup is looking like, and I think the movement is really good. I put one more coat of epoxy on this after it cured, and it turned out great. So I hope this helped y'all. If you don't mind, please give me a thumbs up and consider liking and subscribing for future videos. Until next time, keep crafting.